Welcome back to the Achilles channel, everyone. Today I've been having a lot of debates online with leftists about these tax cuts, the extension of the Bush tax cuts. And I just wanted to say right off the bat that these are not tax cuts. These are keeping taxes where they are, basically. And that's the bottom line. There are no tax cuts coming from this administration. Put it this way: if they can't increase taxes on everybody, if they can't push forth the sunsetting of the Bush era tax cuts, they'll just implement taxes somewhere else. They'll create a VAT tax. They'll do something else to create this revenue that they want. And it doesn't really create revenue. What it does is it stifles growth, and that's the whole idea of this administration. That's the whole goal of this administration, is to stifle growth and orchestrate have an orchestrated decline of the United States of America, to level the playing field around the world. We need to come to that realization immediately whenever these people talk. That is what they're talking about. Put it this way: Obama and the left want these tax cuts, Bush's tax cuts, to sunset. They want them to sunset, and they planned on allowing them to sunset, which means that all taxes for everybody in the country would have gone up. Because the Bush tax cuts were not just for the rich, even though they said that they were. They were not. There were middle-class tax cuts and tax cuts across the board. Anybody who paid taxes got a tax cut. People who don't even pay taxes got a tax cut, tax rebates, in the form of tax rebates under this thing. So they were going to raise your taxes. It was the conservatives that pushed them to this debate. They pushed the debate. They wanted taxes. They wanted the Bush tax cuts to be, they want them to be permanent. But the Democrats were going to raise your taxes if it were not for the conservatives. Now the Democrats want to compromise and say, well, we'll just cut taxes for the middle class. And that's how they put it: cut taxes for the middle class. Reality is, keep taxes the same. There are no tax cuts on the table. This is to keep taxes the same. So Democrats, we want to cut taxes for the middle class and not the people who earn, not the top 2% of the country. People making $250,000 a year. Those are the job creators. Those are the people that give people jobs to create wealth for individuals. If you stifle their growth, we all lose. Tax revenue loses, because there's more people on the dole getting money from the government than there are paying for taxes. Do you understand? This is just a way to create more debt, to stifle this country and to keep people down. And that's what it's all about. They say that, oh, well, it's because you give these tax cuts, we'll lose $700 billion in revenue. This is I'm going to try to explain this real quickly. They want you to believe that after the Bush administration era, they were able to conclude that if Clinton tax rate was in place during that time, we would have made even more money through tax revenue. But the reality is that growth never would have happened if those taxes were not given, if those tax cuts were not given. So it's not reality that they're selling to these people, that tax cuts create debt. Tax cuts actually increase revenue, because it puts the tax cuts enable people making $250,000 a year to grow their business, which means hire people, which means more people paying into tax revenue, paying into, to create tax revenue. Do you understand? So if those tax cuts were not in place, those jobs would have never been created, the growth never would have happened, so none of the revenue that was created under the Bush administration would have even happened. Never mind this imaginary number that they come up with that we've apparently lost because of the tax breaks. Do you understand that? It's so simple. It's kind of confusing the way they set it up with the math, because if you do the math, you really do the math and you look at the end of the Bush administration and you calculate what we would have made with the Clinton administration, then yeah, it makes sense that way if you look at it that way. But you have to be realistic. In the beginning, if those tax cuts were not given, that growth never would have been created, the revenue never would have been given to the federal government, and we wouldn't have had the growth that we had, which allows them to come up with that number after the fact. Do you understand? I mean, I hope I'm getting through to you. Because it's not, tax cuts do not create debt, do not create a deficit in the government. It actually creates jobs, more revenue for the government. What they really need to do if they want job creation in this country and more growth, more tax revenue is repeal NAFTA. Put those what are they? Tariffs back in place, which empower the American worker, which enable companies to stay here and employ people here, because that's leveling the playing field around the world. This administration and the Clinton administration, who put forth NAFTA, their idea is to lower the standard of living in this country, and that is how you do it. You break down the trade barriers. We can't compete with countries that pay their people 50 cents an hour, so we lose jobs. And that's an orchestrated decline of the United States of America. That's what it is. These people are blowing smoke up your butt, and that's it. $250,000 are the people who create the jobs, which create the tax revenue. You can't, don't you want to make $250,000? It's cutting your nose off to spite your face. Oh, I'm not making $250,000 right now. Let's punish them. What happens? That puts roadblocks in the way of you ever making $250,000. That's ignorant. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're putting roadblocks in your own way. Or you're empowering these useful idiots or these revolutionaries in the White House. You're allowing them to put roadblocks in your way. And you're using class warfare to do it. Wake up. God bless America.